Hi, welcome back to another TerranScapes video. This video is an update on the cliff project, the large piece that I've been showing more recently, and a lot of progress has been made on it, but it is not done as I had hoped to have finished, and that is partly that there's a bit more work to do than I usually calculate, and the customer added in a couple additional features. Cat, I had a feeling he'd show up. It's winter and he's in a lot, so he's been working with me on this project as well, my little helper. In any case, so what I wanted to do is try to give you a shorter video this week. Already I'm running long here, and go over those pieces that have been changed, as well as some of the things that I have modified, and give you an overall glimpse at where it is right now. So before we get on this too long, let's go take a look. So, as I mentioned before, George is keenly interested in everything in the basement during the winter, so he's going to be joining us for this discussion. Hopefully, he won't distract you too much from the details. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, I wanted to prevent this incredible shrinking that was occurring on the top as all four sides drifted inward. And so what I decided to do was to remap out the 24 inches and then the 10 inches that would be sort of a flat, unused area, or at least, undeveloped, no buildings on here. And this, by mapping this out, it allowed me to reestablish what that border would be. Now, you'll notice in the back here that I have built out the top, and basically what I did was go in and bulk out the foam. You can actually see some of the original seams here, and push that back so that I could bring this out more, as well as knock off that corner feel that was starting to really occur on all the sides. So I bulked it out here, I bulked it out on this side as well, and George is adding some unbalancing here. And then I bulked it out here as well. So that way I could also take the top and stretch it rather than have it be, the same dimension as the front. And so you can see that expanded, sort of. I think hopefully from this perspective you can see that it's gotten a little wider here rather than at the front, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. So what has been done since the last time we took a look at it? Well, it's probably a good idea to take a look at this side here. This is what was previously the blank side, or the unadorned side, and the customer really wanted to have this side be playable. So he asked me if I could install something to give this side some playability. So what I did is I put in 3 caves, and these caves, obviously, you can see they're currently removable. And what I'll be doing is I'll be pulling those out to paint them, reinsert them. There's a little bend in them as well, and I'm going to put some lights in there and have those lights be triggered to match either the World War II side or the fantasy side, and that will be an easy setup compared to the initial undertaking of the lighting. So I put in a little pathway to come up to these areas, and there was a little bit of redo that needed to be done here, and it was, I'll just say real quick, very scary putting these in. There's a lot of stuff inside here now, and carving, just to give you a sense of their size, right? So they're kind of big that I'm sticking into this vacancy, and the passageway is not that far back here. So it did take me some time to very carefully excavate the space needed for the caves, making sure not to damage any of the components that are already in the interior. Coming around. This is the World War II side with the bunkers. You can see now I've set them in. And you'll also notice this spot here. I should take a moment to describe that. As I've been carving, I've been wondering just how much of this detail would be preserved by the foam coat. You'd think at this point I would know whether these little tiny cuts and scratches would show up. But it's been a long time since I've done carving of this style, and it has been a long time since I've coated something like this with foam coat. So before I started going in for the final detailing, I did just give a little quick foam coat to the corner over here, and came out pretty well, actually. But what I noticed is that it was filling a lot of this grainy texture in the foam, which is fine. I needed to know that. But also that the more irregular the spots were, and I don't know how much, you know, we're going to be able to see. I'm not going to do any real close-ups on this video, just to try to keep it a little bit briefer, because I have to do more work after this to work on a spot we'll talk about a little bit later. But in any case, you know, where there are some deep clefts and some outcroppings, I noticed that, you know, this is really the area to focus on for detailing rather than working on the fine grain areas. You know, I need more, you know, structure in the rock at a larger scale. So that's what I've been working on as I've been going through. And the other nice thing is I actually did it over a little bit of this drywall spackle to see if that would match the foam, make sure that there weren't any visual conflicts there. So, and that actually came out very well. So I felt a lot more comfortable going forward with doing the fill around all of these structural pieces on there. The customer also asked to add some machine gun nests, basically just some dugouts where troops could sit to sort of augment the playability of this side. And so what I decided was to make these spots in here be you know, big enough for about 3 men. Wait a minute, I've got a troop here. Let's put one in there. All right, and actually there's probably a little bit more space than for 3. And then I had the idea that I would put in some rope ladders coming from the bunkers down to these, with the idea that the troops are scaling down from the entrances in the back. There will be some doors in the back here when these are finished, and they're coming down and then dropping into the you know, machine gun nest area. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Silly. So what I did, actually, wait a minute, I'm getting a thumbtack and a rope ladder. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep this a little suspenseful at the moment. Again, I'm trying to be a little briefer here. But what you see here, real far away, is a rope ladder I made that is a rope ladder. I hand tied all of these rungs using the rope ladder knot I found online. And so this is a, you know, fully functional, absolutely realistic rope ladder. That was kind of fun. A little bit of a challenge. The first one took a while. The second one came together pretty quickly. So at the moment I'm just tacking that in place. But you can get a sense of how that will hang and give you know, a sort of nice image of how troops could access these locations. The goal was to try to have it be something where it would be, and it doesn't look entirely natural because I had to modify it, you know, really to accommodate the figures, but something where they're taking advantage of the natural features of the face. You know, so I did put in a couple flat areas to sort of try to emulate these kinds of openings in this piece, and then these are just the largest ones that allow people to actually take up a position in. So that is the World War II side with the bunkers. And here we can see the front sort of scalable area. And this side, much like the reverse side with the caves, I suddenly, you know, really ended up realizing that by keeping the caves generic, both of these sides can be played with either side, so you'll have 3 faces, no matter which side you're going to play from, that are usable, you know. And so that was kind of a nice restriction for myself on the cave development. Try to keep them generic so that it all fit. And when I put the lights in the caves on the back side that we already looked at, I'm going to have them be 2 color schemes as well, sort of like the fantasy side. If you missed those lights demonstration, you should go back into the video catalog and take a look at the, I think it's called like the passageway lit or cave passageway lit, something like that. So, by keeping those generic, I can have one be like torchlight in the back and one be sort of like steady on, you know, incandescent, and that would be more like a World War II lighting, you know, that they've run lights throughout the tunnel network. So, not much new to talk about this, except that I went in and refined all the carving for this piece to bring out more texture in the rock, so that when I put the foam coat over it, it's going to really have a much more pronounced, you know, visual impact of the rock rather than being mostly smooth faces and losing all of the little tiny detail that would have helped it without these big clefts. But so this is, I think this side's going to come out really well. I'm pretty excited about it, getting it finished and painted up. The customer did inquire about how I was going to be finishing these pieces, and he was asking about grass and bushes and that sort of idea. And I hadn't really come up with a very firm idea about these surfaces until recently, when I realized that without adding a fair amount of green to this piece, we're really going to have a very, very gray, visual piece that's going to look very bland. So at this moment, I am planning on basically grassing in large areas of these pathways and then adorning it with vegetation and clump foliage and flowers and whatnot all the way up the side. And I think it's really going to make this side pop quite a bit. So that is the plan going forward on this side. And this is the fantasy side, slightly revised, and there are some, finished further along. That's the right word. Choice. Pair of words, further along. So taking a look at this, you can see now I've embedded all of these structural pieces. I have then filled in all around it with plaster cloth and Sculptamold and lightweight spackle, and then continued some of that modification of the stone to bring out more, deeper texture to help it when it gets foam coated. And then I did some work on this walkway, and that has been a bit of a hiccup, mainly because talking with the customer, he wanted to add some kind of ruined bits, towers, columns, or something similar. And originally I had thought that perhaps I could dress this with some side, dressing and the top walkway, and then put a pattern into the balsa foam so that it would kind of bring it in alignment with the rest of these pieces. One of the major drivers for this was to put the balsa foam on top and give it some structural integrity. This foam is very soft, and I dented it. I think I might have mentioned that in the last video. So this is going to give it a much better surface for durability. Unfortunately, two things occurred to me while I was doing this that prevented more sort of detail being added. The first, and we're taking a look at this, let me see here, I just use okay, so we can see that. I know it's a little far away, but I think you'll get the idea. Is that as this piece comes up, adding something along this bisects these holes that I cut in when I initially designed the piece. And that is making it, I think, impossible for me to add dressing along this and have it look right. I actually did build in a little dressing that would flow up this side, and when it comes close to these, it doesn't look right. I don't want to try to add stripping all around it. That's an option, but it'd have to be very, very small. It wouldn't be too hard to do, so if the customer thinks that might be nice, I could line all of these edges so it'd have just a little kick out, think of it like styrene, but sort of 3/16 inch wide, running along the edges. That could be something that would be doable, but the issue then, of course, is these would not have that, and that would, I don't know, maybe set it apart. It might look good like that. Let's see if the customer wants that. And of course, feedback from the audience, always welcome. And what I also did is, when I put this on, I actually had scribed in a Celtic rune set that would complement the overall feel, as well as one of the patterns in the interior of the passageway. And when I laid it down, the pieces were a little uneven, so I started to lightly sand them. And because the balsa foam is so easily sanded, I sanded off 70% of my carving before I had even noticed. Yeah, so that meant that I had to just sand the whole thing off, because it doesn't look right if this is partially worn, and these are all crisp and new. So I sanded it right down, and now it's just a smooth walkway as was originally envisioned. I think at this stage, really, I'm not comfortable with making any major modifications to it because of these these lines, and really the only thing I would feel comfortable maybe with would be, you know, doing some striping along the edges, actually maybe with some balsa foam so we have a textural connection there. And actually I have some pieces when I cut this that were extra, and actually because I had done some planning for this, I cut a lot of stuff and engraved it and then had to scrap it. So you know, unpaid work as part of the project is part of the project. So in any case, what I've also done is built up the underlying rock around the footing of both of these sides to tie it into the piece, and I have modified this. Oh, we are now off frame. Oh my gosh. All right, hold on. We'll take a little look here. Oh, and actually it gives you a different look at the path as well, or the walkway. But the pathway that comes up from the bottom, I've been building that up a little bit and re-leveling it so that it would fit a little bit better for the miniatures on it. So, before we leave this side, a couple thoughts on the next steps. First, the customer requested that I build, and I thought it was a great addition. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but in the lava entranceway, a sort of exit structure, you know, something similar that would fit in here and that the lava would emerge from. I think that's a great idea because it gives it the impression that perhaps this is a controlled flow. Maybe they diverted it here for aesthetics. Who doesn't like to look at lava? Maybe as a defensive enhancement for the walkway. So I'm going to be carving that and installing that as the next phase of this side. Then there is the lighting issue, and I've talked to the customer about this. I've had quite a bit of electrical difficulties with some of my preparation for the lava. I am not going to get into that right now, partly because I'm afraid people will give me suggestions that I will want to pursue, and I don't want to pursue anything different. I have some ideas on how to fix it. I'll share them with you at the end. I've shared them with the customer already, and I think that I will be able to come up with the effects I'd like, and I have a good shot of getting something where the lights will ripple down, and I think that will look very good on that sort of you know, drop off. The thing that I will be doing next is also installing some of the lights, and then I'm going to have to carve into the base and bring all the wires over, and then I will be excavating this section here to create a box area that will receive all of the electronics and have the switches, you know, perhaps emerged, you know, set outside, I should say, somewhere right against the bottom of the piece. So that is going to be part of that next phase. So really, at this point, all of the carving is done for the piece, unless there's a customer objection. The only carving and installation that needs to happen now is some slight touch-ups here and the finish of the caves. I'm waiting for something to come in for the lights for the caves, so I can't install them until then because the lights go in the back, and then I will run the wires out along the sides and then fill them all in. So I'll have to paint these first, put in the lights, seal this all up. Didn't I say this was going to be a short video? It's hard with this piece. There's a lot to look at. So aside from that carving and aside from this archway, basically what we're looking at as a finished stage is the lava and the lighting associated with that, the cutout for the electronics to all join up together, and the controlling circuits for all of that, and the battery pack as well. And it's going to be probably multiple batteries. We'll talk about that at the end when our project is done. And bringing all those wires in together and installing the switch, which I probably will do after I paint the piece. And I'd like the switches on the outside. So painting is coming up very soon on this piece. And once the painting is done, then it will be the foliage and the flock. And that will not take terribly long, but there will be a lot of bushes and stuff on that gradual slope. So, you know, it won't be too fast. Over here, this will all be finished in a very flat surface to accommodate buildings on the top. And down the road, we've talked about adding some, you know, scatter terrain to the top that could be used to modify this if there are, off frame again. Sorry about that, people. What kind of videographer am I? That's not helpful. All right, let's try that. In any case, so this is going to be kept plain, grass patches, much like my other modular boards, and then develop a few scatter pieces for this down the road to adorn that when there are different kinds of scenarios that do not include a large castle or something similar on this. So that gives you an overview, I think, of just about everything that I have done and am planning to do. And I was very happy about the foam coat, but that is going to take probably 2 coats. And for those of you who are interested in foam coat, I've gotten some video watchers, what do we call it? Viewers that have been using foam coat based on my recommendations, said that they've been enjoying it, they like it. And I put on one very thin coat for this, and it wasn't too hard to cut through with a knife if I wanted to modify it, but I do plan on adding a second coat when I do the whole piece, as I think 2 coats are really needed to give it durability from a hard knock against the sides. So that gives you an update on where it is. So, while I said I'd keep this video short, it has been a challenge to keep it short with all the faces on that piece, but there's plenty more I could talk about, and I'll go into some of those details, probably as a multi-installment actually, when the piece is finished. So hopefully you found something helpful maybe to yourself or inspiring, and I just want to thank all my new subscribers and welcome you to the channel. Welcome to the Crazy Terrain Train. I'm going to actually try to take all of these videos related to this project and the castle project and put them in as a playlist in the YouTube channel. Give me a few days to get that done. So that might be a nice way for you to kind of follow the progress of these kinds of very large scale projects a little bit more easily. And of course, questions and comments always welcome down below. I have tried to respond to as many as I can, which is, most. And of course, as I mentioned before, if you are replying to a comment and it is buried in the midst of the emails or the comments, I may not see it and I may not be able to reply to it. So just as a heads up. Hopefully you'll come back and join me again, and stay tuned, of course, to the channel if you're interested in seeing follow-ups on this project. They will be coming along hopefully pretty soon.